you will maintain this safe place for yourself, for your art? You don't think you will ever change and write books that incorporate white lives into them substantially?
I have done.
In a substantial way?
You can't understand how powerfully racist that question is, can you? Because you could never ask a white author, when are you going to write about black people? Whether he did or not, or she did or not. Even the inquiry comes from a position of being in the center.
And being used to being in the center.
And being used to being in the center. And saying, you know, is it ever possible that you will enter the mainstream? It's inconceivable that where I already am is the mainstream.
Oh, no, that wasn't the implication of my question. I think you are very, very much in the mainstream. It's a question of the subject of your narrative, whether you want to alter the parameters of it, whether you see any benefit in doing that, or will you clearly see disadvantages in doing it from your own point of view?
Artistic disadvantages. There are no pluses for me. Being an African-American writer is sort of like being a Russian writer who writes about Russia, in Russian, for Russians. And the fact that it gets translated and read by other people is a benefit. It's a plus. But he's not obliged to ever consider writing about French people or Americans or anybody.
No, I'm glad that author said that. I'm sorry if I don't know who she is right now. And you guys are probably, Jer, how do you not know who that is? I don't know who she is. I'm sorry. But I just happened to see this clip and I thought that it was very impactful. And I think this is what makes the world great. This is what makes storytelling great. This is what makes art, culture, all those things great, is because we all come from different walks of life, and everything doesn't have to be washed with a different culture, because that's not how things are. And coming from a perspective of a dominant society, and this journalist, you see, she's doing her job. She's asking these questions because people want to know, which I never really understood. I don't want to adopt anyone's culture and make it my own. I can take different things, but I don't want to say that this happened when it really didn't happen. That says a lot about who you are personally when you try to take something from someone and make it your story. I never got that. And basically what she was saying was the fact that you're trying to get me to step away from my core audience. Same thing with any art form, anybody who has a fan base, even YouTube. When you start doing things differently, doesn't mean you can say everybody says you need to broaden your audience. The best YouTubers obviously have a broad audience, which everybody aspires to have tons of followers a lot of times, but sometimes, hey, it just doesn't translate well. Sometimes some people aren't able to do it. Sometimes the people who do it aren't their authentic selves. And she gave the perfect example of someone in Russia or someone in India writing about this experience or trying to bring these people in there. And they don't have to change that up. You're not going to ask a white person, when are you going to make music for black people? Or when are you going to cook food for black people? It's just no. Do what it is that you got your fan base off of. It's like this is missing. It's like a lot of movies people say. Every movie, a black movie can't be made unless it has a white hero in it, right? A lot of the movies, and I think people have done whole documentaries on this, that in order for it to get financed, it has to have certain people in there in order for it, even if it's a black story. Like someone even put up, and I'll probably put it on the screen here, about the pharaoh with, you might as well say he has blonde hair and blue eyes and all these different things that are basically whitewashed, saying that there were these people in this part of the country. The Last Samurai, obviously the Ten Commandments has been done over. The story of Moses has been done over and over and over. There's so many characters where it's set in this country, but it's a white protagonist that is in the movie because it's to sell it. I wouldn't want, and I think Will Smith said something powerful, and before we get into this next clip here, Will Smith said, when he was asked about playing Superman, you don't want to take away, this is a white man. Traditionally, even though he's an alien, he appears to be a white man, and he is the hero to white people. What I mean by that is he has traditionally been, even though he stood for truth, justice, whatever, the American way. I don't know if that's Superman or if that's Captain America, but anyway, this is what he stood for, and he was in all aspects a white hero. I don't see why, and we're doing a lot of this blending diversity, but I think that it's important for you to create your own heroes and that representation to be seen, instead of changing the story or changing someone's narrative. But let's get on to another clip of this young lady here. She has some stuff to say. Let's go.
White people have never had to know what it feels like to be chosen second, to be sitting on the sidelines and not be represented in a form of media, because they've always been represented in every single form of media for hundreds of years. So when it happens once or a couple of times in a blue moon, they start to short circuit because they don't know how to handle that. I think it's actually so wonderful and beautiful that we actually are able to witness all of these white people freaking the fuck out, losing their minds over a person of color getting chosen for a role that usually would be reserved for them, and that is the standard for them, because it shows and is a wonderful display on how content white people are in the racial hierarchy, how they completely understand, as much as they try to act stupid and dumb, that racism isn't a thing anymore. They know their place on the racial hierarchy. They understand that they are at the top, and they would not like to switch places. So when it happens for just a second, a little measly second, even for a fan cast that isn't even real, for a movie that's not coming out anytime soon, they lose their fucking mind. You know what? They can keep losing their mind. Because at the end of the day, you're either going to have to be forced to get with the program or get left the fuck behind. Because we as a society are slowly but surely moving past the need for white standard. People are realizing that we no longer want to see an all-white story. We no longer want to see an all-white cast, okay? Because that's not what the world looks like. And y'all can scream all you want, oh, it's wokeness, it's woke, Disney is woke now, everybody's woke, like, DEI, DEI. When at the end of the day, that is just what the world looks like. So go step the fuck outside and go look outside your window and get over it.
DEI. I had to look that one up. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this, especially within the past 10 years, we've been seeing a lot of this in media, with comic book movies, even in comic books. And I'm staying on color. I'm not going to be talking about gender or sexuality when it comes to this. I'm just strictly staying on color because that's what they're talking about. Gee, our color's not real. Well, anyway, it's a very important conversation. Back to the Little Mermaid, and that's just another example of Disney and making the Little Mermaid black. Little Mermaid is make-believe. This is all make-believe when it comes to these things, but true historical figures being changed to something that they aren't is definitely a misrepresentation. There were heroes, and I want to make this clear and plain. There are heroes outside of people with white skin. There's no disrespect to people with white skin, but historically there have been heroes that didn't have white skin. And as far as black folks, there's been more than just slaves or people who the government agreed with in terms of what was safe, and not someone that's too radical when it comes to things. I think that this is something, it's an important conversation, something that everyone needs to think about. We talk about equality, inclusion, diversity. Diversity is one of those things, but I think you shouldn't have to force that on anybody. Specifically, people have their opinions about the I Have a Dream with Martin Luther King and desegregation, and some people were saying that was the worst thing for black folks. A lot of us wouldn't exist if it wasn't, including myself, wouldn't exist unless there was desegregation. But with everything, there's positives and negatives. You feel me? But no one should be anyone's slave. No one should be anyone's slave unless you're being paid as a servant, or paid servitude, not slavery. Nobody should be bought and traded and work for free. No, not at all. But guys, let me know what you guys think about all this. What do you guys think about these topics? Comment below. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Much blessings and abundance. Stick around for the next videos that are going to pop up on the screen below. That's where I'm going to see you guys at. Listen, it's your favorite everything. This is Wisdom. Let's run it up to 1 million. I'm the best. Quit playing with me. Peace.